And the one thing I kept hearing over and over again from all the Boston headliners was stage time, stage time, stage time. Any day that you turn down stage time is a day that you don't grow.
Welcome to Fry Your Chickens, the podcast about facing fears, negativities, and self-doubts that can hold us back. Or as I like to call them, chickens. Get ready because it's time to tell those chickens that are holding you back to shut the cluck up. We will learn how real people did exactly that. I'm your host, Phil Barth. Let's get ready to fry. My guest today is Darren LaCroix. Darren and I first met in 2007 or 2008. I don't remember. You came to District 40. I had seen you before, but you came to our Toastmasters district. I actually won the humorous speaking contest that night, and we hit it off there. Somewhere in the archives, and I'll put it in the show notes, I have a picture of the two of us. We were much younger.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we look a lot younger. Well, I do anyway. You've always looked young.
You're very kind.
Darren, welcome to Fry Your Chickens.
Hey, let's fry some chickens, bro.
Let's do that. All right. Darren, by the way, was at our conference because he is the 2001 Toastmasters World Champion of Public Speaking. So, a little of that video for you. And so awesome. Fantastic.
I come with my own sound effects.
Yeah. So I had actually seen you on video before we ever met, obviously, because I had to study. But before, I just want to dive right into it, rip the old Band-Aid off. Before you were ever the world champion of public speaking, back in Boston, you tried a few things. Tell me about your time in Boston. I believe you grew up there, right?
Yeah, I grew up there. I went to school in Smithfield, Rhode Island, a little business school called Bryant College, now Bryant University. And I was doing what I was told, follow my love, my interest, which was business, went out for the American dream, bought a Subway sandwich shop. And I don't know if you know this, Phil, but Subway back in the 90s, when this was happening, this is around 1990, they had a 98% success rate. So I really had to screw up to be in those 2%. And yeah, I had to sell it at a loss. About a year and a half later, I was devastated. Buddy gave me a cassette tape, if you're old enough to know what that is, of a man named Brian Tracy, because he saw I was down and depressed and just thinking horrible thoughts. And he asked a question while I'm driving down the road listening. He said, "What would you dare to dream if you knew you wouldn't fail?" And in my head, I was really trying to be honest and answer it. And I was like, if I wouldn't fail, if I could do anything, I'd be a comedian. How cool would that be? But all of a sudden, the doubting voice, the voice of reason on my shoulder, looked at me and said, "But you're not funny," which was true. I wasn't funny. But that wasn't the question. The question was, what would you dare to dream if you knew you wouldn't fail? And I was starting to really get into these motivational tapes, and they kept saying, go to people who are the best and be a sponge. Listen to them. Don't listen to anybody else because they don't know. You go to people the best. So I forced up all the courage I could, shy introvert Darren. I walked into a comedy club. I walked up to the headliner that night. His name is Chris McGuire. I was like, "Hi, my name is Darren. I want to try this. What do I need to do?" And he asked the question. He said, "Are you funny?" I said, "No." He said, "Good." Like, good? What do you mean good? And he went on to explain that people who are class clowns, people who are naturally funny around friends and family, he said if you took them out of that environment and put them in front of a group of strangers, handed them a microphone, he said they couldn't make them laugh. He said that's a different skill set, but that skill set can be learned. What? And so he said, go get this book, Stand-Up Comedy, The Book by Judy Carter. So I went and got it. By the way, success is simple. Go to people where you want to be ask questions, and then do what they say. Guy who is where I want to be says, get the book. I got the book. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't let your ego get in the way. You can't fry your chickens with an ego. And so he said, number two, you need to go to open mic nights and watch other people just starting out. Duh. My friends and family are comparing me to Seinfeld, somebody at the top of his profession to someone who's just thinking about something. And so I go to Stitches, it's a little comedy club outside of Fenway Park in Boston. And I walk in the door and I watch people go up for their first time. I'm like, these people are horrible. I can do that. It literally inspired me. So I went in, I studied, I read the book. I went to Stitches every Sunday night for 2 months. And it was 1992. April 26, 1992, April 1992. And I walked in, I brought my friends with me because my whole life I had been a non-friar. I had been a mommy's boy. I didn't do anything crazy. I was, I did what I was told. So I brought my friends with me and I said, you make sure I go up there. I'm never doing this again. But I couldn't live with the regret of wondering, what if? What if I could fry my chickens? What if? And so I just said, I don't care if I kick or scream or whine, make sure I go up there tonight. And I did. We have a video. They had a video camera there. They were big back in that day, but we had a video camera there just to prove I did it, because no one would have believed Darren back in 92 would have ever tried something like this, because I wasn't funny, never been on stage, never gave a speech. Like, this is way out of the box. And so I went up on stage. I was so nervous. I was shaking. And I had one joke about Dr. Robert Goddard. And if you don't know him, he was the founder of modern day rocketry. He launched the first liquid fuel rocket in history in my hometown. And I was making light of every town in New England has a claim to fame that, George Washington slept here. The Battle of Bunker Hill was here. This is where the Tea Party was. And so I was making light of that. And I said the rocket took off and it went vertically, but I did horizontal with my arm. And I just realized I messed up in the moment. And I said, shoot. It's not the word I used that night, but I said, shoot. And everybody laughed. And I'm looking around like, wait, why are you laughing? That's not where you're supposed to laugh, but I'll take it. As I walked off stage, one of the other comics was consoling me. He's put his arms around me. He's like, don't worry, man. It's just your first time. And I was like, just my first time? Did you see what I did? I got a laugh. No one told me I could do this. I'm 23. George Burns is 100. I will figure it out. And I made an all-in decision that I'm going to figure it out. And I, if you want to see it, I have a clip of how bad it really was.
Please.
Yeah, so I'll just show you a few seconds. The point will be made. April 26, 1992, Stitches, Boston, Mass.
Does anyone here live in New England? Yeah. I figured I had to get somebody to see it. Did anybody ever notice that every other small town in New England takes one little small historical fact and makes it the greatest event in the world? Sorry for my voice, like fluctuating a little bit. But a lot of towns are like this.
I think you get the point.
Yeah, well, I mean, you actually got a couple of laughs right there as well. And
sympathy laughs. But...
Well, yeah. So multiple things to unpack here. Chris McGuire, friend of the show, has been on there. Very funny individual. So apparently when he was telling you that people who were class clowns didn't do well on their first attempt, he must be familiar with my work in my first Toastmasters humorous contest. Because nice. I had the first joke, just 30 seconds, I'm like, this is going to kill. And since we're bearing our souls here, it was a joke about my mom hitting a deer, and I somehow thought that would be funny. And the punchline was my mom killed Bambi. And, see, you reacted like I now react, and everybody in the audience reacted. And exactly. And I'm 30 seconds in, I'm going, that was the one that was going to get them all laughing. I am screwed for the next 6 minutes. But you learn. It's a process. And the other thing you talked about was regret. And the one thing that we like here is the Fear of regret, the red rooster of regret. That's what you want to be afraid of. If you're listening to it, you've probably seen the red rooster of regret somewhere, but there he is. So I like the fact that you didn't want to have regrets. You took the stage, and it set you off on the right foot. So, and that's why you're here today.
Exactly.
So there was another event that went quite a bit better for you in 2001. Tell me about the World Championship of Public Speaking.
Yeah. Well, part of the journey, when I look back, I'm like, what was I thinking? But like I said, when I walked off stage, I made an all-in decision. I was like, I'm going to get every mentor I can. I'm going to get every book that I can. I'm going to figure this out because no one told me I could do this. I had no natural talents. And so I found mentors. I asked them for advice. I read the books. I took classes. And the one thing I kept hearing over and over again from all the Boston headliners was stage time, stage time, stage time. Any day that you turn down stage time is a day that you don't grow. And I took that quite literally. So for those of you who are familiar with Toastmasters, it's, Phil, there's 100 wannabe comedians in Boston. There's 4 open mic nights. They ain't getting on any regular stages. There's 4 open nights. So you have 100 wannabes vying for these few spots. So I would be lucky if I could get on once a week. And when I worked at Bose, the stereo speaker company, they had a Toastmasters club. So I start reading about it. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Here's a place I could get stage time during the day. Comedy clubs are only open at night. I could fail twice a day. So I walked into my very first Toastmasters club to see what it was, to check it out, to see if it's a place I could get stage time. There was maybe 12 people there. I walk in and I noticed something very different from the comedy clubs right away. These people were warm, encouraging, and sober. So I joined 4 clubs as soon as I could.
Wow.
Because I took it literally what my mentors said that I needed. Any day that you don't get on stage is a day that I don't grow. Look, if you want to fry your chickens, you got to be willing to turn on 4 fryers if that's what it takes. And those decisions are why I get to do this for a living. So for many years, I did Toastmasters, speaking, and stand-up. And then one of my comedy mentors, he was also a speaking friend and mentor, he said, Darren, stop trying to find that story that will launch your career and instead take the stories you already have and make them so good someone will pay to hear them. And that was like a cartoon, when they shake the head and it goes, like that totally shook me up because I thought, I got to find it. I just thought stories happened. I didn't realize there was a structure to stories, to good stories, stories well told. And I actually ignored his advice for 2 years. And then he passed away, and I was thinking about him sitting at my desk at Bose, and this newsletter comes across my desk about the speech contest. And at the time, I was working my day job. I had a flexible schedule, so I could work my day job, do stand-up, do speaking, marketing myself every waking moment. The one thing I wasn't doing was working on my craft. If you want to be world-class, you got to work on your craft. It doesn't happen... Forget overnight. It doesn't happen without a lot of advice, pressure, and most importantly, execution. So I was the executioner. I was out there doing it. I wasn't great. I wasn't world class. But here's the one thing I wasn't doing was improving my stories. So I thought, well, with the Toastmaster speech contest, I pulled out of my keynote. So I had a keynote I was working on. I was getting paid once in a while, not enough to live off of, maybe $1,500 at the time. So I pulled out one of my stories and I gave it an open and close to fit the Toastmaster format with my whole goal to work on it, to then take the improved story, put it back in my keynote, raising the whole value of the keynote. So I kept winning, but keep in mind, I wasn't working for a piece of lucite. I was building a career. So my why I want to fry the chickens was so much deeper than the average person in a contest. They're trying to win a trophy and get a pat on the head. I'm like, I'm trying to build a career. So I kept winning. Then a fourth level, I won. They said, you got to write a new story, create a new story, and you go into the next level. I'm like, what? There's a next level? I just thought it was a Massachusetts thing, that the international speech contest was just a marketing ploy that they gave it. I didn't realize it actually was. So then they're like, oh, you're going to Connecticut for the regionals at the time, now the semifinals. And I had to write a new speech. So I pulled out another story and I did the same thing, made that story better. And then after I won that, then they're like, oh, you're going to the world championship. Now you got to write another new story. And I was out of good stories, but fortunately I met my coach, Mark Brown, and he helped pull stories out of me and gave me a deeper intention. He said, if you were going to die tomorrow, what one lesson you learned from your life would you want to pass on to a child? And I don't have any children, so I thought of my eldest nephew, Michael. So he forced me to go deeper in me to pull something out. And if I could show one more short clip, Phil,
Absolutely.
from that. So when I first approached my coach, it was a story of failure. And he goes, one problem, Darren, you ain't got no failure stories in there. So I was like, hey, I used to do this joke about my Subway shop back in my stand-up days. So fast forward to 2001, I was like, told the joke. He's like, that's perfect.
After 4 years of business school, I went out and I went for the American dream. I bought a Subway sandwich shop. Oh, yeah. You're all impressed, I can tell. I don't want to brag or anything, but in 6 short months, I took a $60,000 debt, and I doubled that debt. That's right, I turned Subway Sandwich Shop into a nonprofit organization. I financially fell on my face.
I love that. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I love that. I remember the first time I saw it, I had to pause. I had to pause it because I love the punchline. I did not see it coming. And then the tagline of made it a nonprofit organization. That's our operation. I had to pause because it was such a good punchline and such a good tagline. And here's how you know it was good. I don't know how you felt in the moment. People were applauding the joke. And that you get laughs, but when you get applause with the joke, you know you're in a good place.
Yeah, when laughter turns into applause, it's like next level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that was a clip from the winning world championship winning speech. And the other thing I like about it is you immediately turn the laughter into a point. I financially fell on my face. So good.
Without a coach, I would have never. It wasn't, the first version wasn't in my speech, and it would have never been that tight and then made a point with it if it wasn't for Mark Brown, the '95 world champion. So eventually, I shut up and I was coachable, but at first, not so much.
Well, and as you're talking about it, I thought, you taught this because I've been a member of your Stage Time University. We'll talk about that in a bit. And your program before that. I know Mark has coached me on a speech. And I was like, yeah, I remember doing that when same deal. 2011, I had been competing for a while. 2011 for the World Championship. They said, are you going to compete? I'm like, yeah, I might as well. And I said, I've got this project management keynote. I'm just going to find a story out of there that I want to refine. And the story ultimately, it was nothing like it at the start, ultimately became Fry Your Chickens, which took me to at that time you only needed to have 2 speeches. So it took me all the way to the finals in Las Vegas in 2011, but it was the same deal. Take it out and just put it through the ringer, put it through the mill, have coaches help you, listen to the coaches, always a good thing. And I think I practiced it at least at 40 different clubs between the district and the semifinals. And I told people in 10 years of Toastmasters, I had given 40 speeches, about one a quarter. And then in 3 months, I gave 40 speeches. To look at it another way, those 3 months aged me 10 years.
It shows. I mean, just kidding. No, but that's the work, Phil, that most people aren't willing to do. Everybody wants to be world class. There's a great quote by James Clear. He says, everybody wants a gold medal, but no one wants to train like an Olympian.
That's a good one. And I think you're going to answer the question I just gave you, or I'm about to give you, but maybe you can expound on it a little. Why do most speakers never improve? Why do they stay horizontal?
In my opinion, there's the two biggest problem in the speaking world is number one, self-doubt. People don't see their own value and realize they have stories. They think they got to climb Mount Everest. No, you don't. You just have to find your story, your value when you intrinsically learned lessons and then build the story around that. And then the biggest one, though, number two, is ego. They think they're good enough. Yeah, maybe. No, you're not. You kind of suck, actually. You just don't want to hear it. I challenge people come to me every year because people come to me for coaching in the championship. And I tell them, okay, yeah, I know. Everyone in the room told you should have won. Well, number one, you probably didn't talk to a judge. You probably just talked to your friends. But number two, take a week or two. You got to lick your wounds and heal, and then go through this coach's form and watch your own video. And I've never had anyone come back and say, I should have won. Never. Now, most people don't even come back to me because they realize, it wasn't as good as they thought. You're caught up in the emotion of the moment. Your friends are going to tell you you're great, but they're biased. Right. And so self-doubt and ego.
Yep. And that's the other thing I learned from you is you need to record it. And more importantly, you need to watch the recording.
Yep. I always tell speakers, you got to record yourself every time. I know what you're thinking. Oh, I don't want to listen to myself. I hate to listen. And I say, oh, well, guess what? We had to listen. You should be duct taped to a chair and forced to listen to your own speech.
What makes you so special that you don't have to listen to what you,
Exactly. If you want to get paid, especially if you want to get paid, why would anyone pay you if not you're not willing to look at your own speech?
Exactly. You should watch this. I mean, I don't need to. I get hit with that all the time, especially with the fry your chickens, right? I'll tell my wife, I don't know if I want to do this. She's like, no, you probably shouldn't. But there's this guy I hear that tells people to fry his chickens. You gotta listen to him. I'm like, ouch, ouch, ouch.
Yep. We all need a little bit of our own medicine.
We do indeed. I'm going to switch gears. I mentioned it a little bit. Tell me about Stage Time University.
Well, I realized after I won, all of a sudden people started coming to me to learn how to be a better speaker, which I get it, but I'm like, I don't want to be a presentation skills speaker. I don't want, because I saw so many horrible ones. I didn't want to be put in that category. And thank God for mentors, because one of my mentors, Rick Siegel, he's like, Darren, you need to create a product on how to give a better speech. I was like, I don't want to be in that category. Darren. And finally, just to shut him up, I created my first CD set on speaking. I had one on humor, but it was called Speak Like a Champion. I was like, well, I documented my whole process because I recorded it like I told people. And I sat down with Dave, one of my coaches, my other coach with Mark Brown, and I put together a 4 CD set. I got invited to speak in Malaysia. I didn't even know where Malaysia was. I never heard of Malaysia in 2001, but that was the first invite I got. And I literally shrunk wrapped these CDs. I burned them one by one on my home computer, shrunk wrap them, bought a little shrink wrap machine, brought them with me in my luggage, and I sold out before I even went on stage. And I was like, oh, people are willing to pay for this. Maybe I should listen to my mentor. So all of a sudden it became my number one revenue stream. I didn't see it. I didn't want it, but it naturally happened. So for many years I had CDs and DVDs. I love putting things together. I love it. To me, it was like putting together a puzzle without the picture. I don't know why. I just had a passion for it. And Phil, I don't know did you know I used to have a public access TV show?
I did not, no.
Yeah. So before I wanted to be a comedian, I wanted to be an actor. And I had a little public access TV show that the only way to build your resume, my entrepreneurial mindset, I was like, I'll have my own show and then I'll have a resume. Because when a cable company would come into town back in the day, they were forced legally by the towns to create a studio and then teach a class on how to use the equipment so the townspeople could use the equipment. So during my Subway days, I saw that on the town hall when I went up for a license. I was like, oh, be your own free. I was like, I can afford that. So I was like, I'll build my resume. And anyway, but sitting in the basement of the Auburn High School, editing deck to deck for years, helped me be able to create CDs and DVDs. So it was one of those skills that I didn't realize I was learning. But anyway, so back in the day, I would speak around the world for free and have the CDs and DVDs in the back of the room. But then, of course, as the internet got better, faster, stronger, all of a sudden nobody had slot drives anymore. So I kind of evolved into the online university, because the one thing that bothered me is I could give people a process. They could take home the CD and DVD, but I couldn't give them feedback. Mm-hmm. So when I brought everything to the online platform, I was like, you know what we're going to do differently is we're going to have weekly coaching calls where people can go through a program and then bring us the story, and then we can give feedback. Because I say, if you want the math to mastery, if you want to master anything, not just speaking, but anything, it's effort. You got to put in the effort. No one else can do that for you. Times a proven process. You want to be world class, you have to follow a world class process. Plus, Mr. Miyagi, you need that qualified coaching of people to adjust it. So when I built Stage Time, I built it on that principle. Here's the process, and then here's the coaching. So we do live coaching every Wednesday, which getting ready for, as we record this, we have a call coming up in a couple hours. So that's next on my list, to go through and watch the speeches, the stories that were submitted, to give them feedback. And I believe in two coaches, because two perspectives help people grow much more quickly. There you go. So Stage Time University.
Yeah, and I am a member, as I mentioned. It's good because you not only can be the person getting coached, just by watching other people getting coached, you pick things up. And
absolutely.
And same deal. You also, I know, have a business mastery component, and I know that because I'm a member. And same deal, by watching other people get coached on their website, their one sheet, their business model, you name it, you learn things too. And if I don't watch it live, I watch the replay, and I'm sitting there writing down notes. Hey, here's something you need to do on your website. So very valuable. Check it out, stagetimeuniversity.com. All right, we're going to move now to the fun portion of the show. I take it back. This has all been fun. The second fun portion of the show. The
funner portion.
You should find this to be a great honor. You are the first guest who will have the most important question introduced by our new heavy metal rubber chicken band. So you are the very first. Here it comes. Let me just share my screen, and I want it right there. Even if you're listening to it, you will be able to hear Lord Cluckington and the Headbangers introducing this element. Are we ready?
I'm not sure, but bring it.
Do it.
It's time for the big question, because everybody cares. Fight one bear-sized chicken or 100 chicken-sized bears.
All right. That's how you know that the host might have had a little too much time on his hands with AI. Let's stop the sharing. Let's get right to the question.
Oh, Phil.
Now, I will tell you, I've done a lot of things with AI, but it's all been learning too, because I'm picking up a lot of keynotes on AI.
Oh, yeah.
And what you learn by making the videos, by all the things I'm doing with AI. And thank you. Shout out goes to Ford Sakes, one of your instructors. He teaches a lot about AI, but the things I'm learning are very marketable. And I'm not going to lie, they're fun. So The question we have on the Fry Your Chickens podcast is the following. Which would you rather fight? One bear-sized chicken or 100 chicken-sized bears, and why?
I'd rather fight one bear-sized chicken because I got a shot at taking one out if I can get him in the right place, poke him in the eye. 100, I'm just going to be overwhelmed. Yeah, I might win a few battles. I might kick a few to the curb, but eventually they would win. So at least I'd have a shot with one.
Very good. Very good. I like that you put a little thought into this. Obviously, a question of such weighty importance deserves significant thought.
Of course.
Of course it does. Now, in the past, we have done 3 random questions. I have changed the model up. The model is now you get 1 random question. Neither you nor I know it. In fact, the only creature who knows it is, sharing the screen once again. Hang on. Screen 2 is Darcy the puppy. Darcy is now going to ask us each, although it's targeted for you, Darcy is going to ask us a random question. You can see Darcy, right?
I do.
Here's Darcy.
Darren, what's the funniest thing you've ever seen a speaker do on stage thinking it would help them, but absolutely did not? Darren,
Oh, once she starts talking.
Nice. Well, actually, I go back to, I was in another city. It might have been Oklahoma. And it was actually me. The funniest thing I ever did was, getting a little older. I know not you, Phil, but me. I have to now put on my little checklist just before go to the restroom. Boom, older guy. Yep. And so I didn't. But back in the day when I had my speech, I would show my first time on stage and I would show the whole championship speech, which is 8 minutes total. And so I was like, I ain't going to make it through. So I hit play on my speech and I ran out the side door. So they were watching. The room was dark. I ran out the side door, went to the bathroom. Okay, ran back and the door was locked. I couldn't get back into my speech.
No!
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Knocking on the door. Hey, help. I'm the speaker. Let me in. It was pretty funny.
That's awesome. I thought maybe you left your remote, your attached microphone on or something like that.
Nah, everyone can do that. I just locked myself out,
That's better. That's epic.
What about you?
Yeah, so my biggest mistake. Well, let me give you the background. I thought it would be really funny to have a speech on deer avoidance devices. Back in the day, these little avoidance devices you had on your car that allegedly the wind would go through and it would make a whistle and the deer would hear it and would turn around and you wouldn't run over them. My mom had them. I had a sports car. I was like, I'm not putting them on my car. No, I had a Chrysler Laser turbocharged. And so one night, I'm following my mom and dad home, and boom, they hit a deer. And I mean, all of a sudden you just, and it went off to the side. And so the next day, oh, and by the way, I tell this story, and that's where the punchline comes from. My mom killed Bambi. And crickets, right? Well, no, not crickets, like, oh. So
exactly.
Let's continue, right? And so the next day, we're looking at what's left of the right front fender of the car, and it's missing a deer avoidance device. She said, well, see, that's the problem. The deer avoidance device fell off. I'm like, when do you think that might have happened? Right? So that part was at least funny, but then I went into there was a line in there saying, if you can't beat them, eat them, and I held up a cookbook, 101 recipes for deer. Look, I like venison, but I wouldn't put it out there as comedic gold. Okay, so you live, you learn.
And the word chicken is funnier than deer.
100%. Yes. Yeah, it's got that K sound.
Yep. Amen. Hard K.
I learned that from you. Yeah. Yeah. Now, there are some K sound words that you don't use on stage, but that's another story for another podcast.
Let's bring it back, Phil. Let's bring the hard K sound back to the professional corporate presenter stage.
Yes, let's do that indeed. Darren, your most recent keynote, All In. Can you tell me about the whole concept of All In? I'll bet it plays well in Vegas.
Yeah, that actually the initial idea came from my speaker agent here in Vegas. And she said, if you created a Vegas themed keynote, I could sell you here all day long. Now, I had written a book called 17 Minutes to Your Dream, and I was thinking about, I was like, ooh, if I added some Vegas stories. So I added a story about Sammy Davis Jr., the Hoover Dam, the Vegas sign, and moving the Raiders to Vegas, and how they were all in decision. So I made it work, and then I intertwined it with my story. Now, this agent has never booked me since I did this. It took me 6 months or so to put all the new sizzle reel together, the marketing. I even created some casino chips as giveaways that say all in, one decision changes everything. And then Phil on the back, on the back of one of these, I actually have the newer ones. I have my QR code for my sizzle reel. So it's a nice little giveaway. I can obviously adapt it for each convention or conference, but I just delivered this in Vegas to a group of contractors that I hired Chris to help me, because contractors is not my audience. That's not, I had a refrigerator delivered here, and the guys who were delivering it, they just brought it in, took the old one out. But when they, in 90 seconds, took my front door off, I was mesmerized. Whoa. How did they do that? So I took pictures of that, and I used it in my presentation to say, hey, I'm not one of you, but here I am just saying it. I'm not pretending, but here's what I can help you with, which I learned the hard way. So I took 17 Minutes to Your Dream and turned it into All In. So it's primarily the same speech, but it's enhanced with Vegas stories. But I just love it because I realized when I walked off stage that day, I made an all-in decision, and it took me a while. But for example, the owner of the Raiders, Mark Davis, when he made a decision to move the Raiders from LA to Vegas, he invested $350 million just for the rights to move them. But here's the magic part, Phil, is that the next day, Forbes magazine changed the valuation of the franchise just because they made that decision, and they went from almost last franchise value to over like a few years to they moved up like 9 slots, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Well, that's really cool. And it sounds like you are getting booked, just not from the speaker agent who gave you the idea.
Yes, correct. But we could always use more, higher fees. But that last one was my highest fee in the United States, which was super cool. So
that's fantastic. I remember you talking about that, and kudos to you. Darren, love talking with you. I really appreciate what you've done for me personally and for the speaking community in general. Where can we find you online?
I'm on TikTok. Just search my name, Instagram, YouTube. I have like 2,000 videos, I think, now on YouTube. But stagetimeuniversity.com. There's some free trainings if you want to check it out on the business side or on the skills side that you can find like for free. Just click on it, 59 minutes. That will literally change how you look at presentations or the business of speaking. And I get to be on podcasts. And Phil, I kind of stopped doing them, but because you're part of my university, I was like, I can't say no to Phil. Come on.
I really appreciate it, Darren. Darren, thanks again for being on the podcast and for everything you do. Have a great day.
Thanks, brother.
Hey, it's Phil. Like today's show? Well, you'll clucking love my Fry Your Chickens newsletter on LinkedIn and Substack. Links are in the notes.